Abortion happens every day. Millions of people around the world will have an abortion each year. But the majority of those people will never talk about their abortion experiences. What if millions of people broke their silence and told the truth about their lives and their choices? This is Melissa Madera in Bangkok, Thailand, and you're listening to the Abortion Diary podcast. These are the stories we share.
I was married in the mid-50s and really didn't know anything about contraception or childbirth or anything. I think my mother got me a diaphragm and probably showed me how to use it, but I didn't really know anything about it. And by the time I'd been married 7 years, I had 5 children. And at that time, we were living in the East, and it was illegal for a doctor to bring up the subject of contraception. He could answer questions if you asked, but he couldn't bring it up. And I never thought to bring it up because I thought I had a system of contraception, even though it wasn't working, but it never occurred to me to actually ask why it wasn't working. So when I got pregnant again with what would be my 6th child, I just knew that I couldn't handle it. And at that time we'd moved to Ohio. And the only way to get a legal abortion was to have 2 doctors say that it was necessary for your life or your health. So that's the way I started. I started asking doctors because I said, I just cannot handle another child. 5 is okay, we're doing okay, but I cannot do another one. And of course, no doctor would say that was important, for my health. And I even asked the doctors about illegal abortions, and of course they wouldn't give me any information. Then my dad, who was very supportive of me, said, well, you don't ask a doctor to recommend a doctor who is doing illegal things. You ask a criminal attorney. And he went to an attorney and asked him where someone could get an illegal abortion. I believe the attorney thought that he'd gotten some girl pregnant, but I don't know. Anyway, the attorney gave him the name of a clinic in Puerto Rico. So because I had a very supportive family, my parents really understood that I couldn't handle another child. They actually made the arrangements for me, and they paid for my ticket down to Puerto Rico, and they actually met me down there, and it was pretty scary, but the clinic was clean, and it was very small. Abortions were illegal in Puerto Rico at the time, but they were very common. So I was in a clean clinic with a crucifix on the wall and a doctor who spoke English, and everything went okay. And I just remember that afterwards, my dad asked me, was I okay? And I just said, oh, I'm so hungry. And he went and got me a hamburger and a milkshake. And then they put me on a plane and flew me back home. And they actually bought a first-class ticket for me. It's the only time I've traveled first class, to fly me back home. So when I got back home, I went to see my OBGYN to, make sure that everything was okay. And I told him I'd had an abortion, and he just said right away, oh, well, then I will prescribe the pill for you, because the pill had just come out, and he hadn't been willing to prescribe it before. He just thought it was too risky. But because I'd had an abortion, he said, well, I will prescribe the pill for you, and that solved the problem because the pill was very effective. So after that, I kind of forgot about abortion. Roe v. Wade was passed soon after that, and I thought things were pretty well taken care of until I had a friend who got pregnant, and although abortions were legal at that time, she didn't have the money to pay for an abortion. And then it really came through to me how important, having a supportive family or people who could afford an abortion, how abortion wasn't really a choice for people who couldn't afford it. So that's really all my story is. When she needed an abortion, I just thought, well, no problem. We went to a Planned Parenthood, and they didn't do it there, but they gave her a list of the abortion clinics in Columbus. And she had a 2-year-old, so I took her into Columbus and took the 2-year-old to a museum, and then came back and picked her up. And she couldn't have the abortion because her iron level was too low. Oh yeah, she couldn't afford it. But so I told her at that point, I said, well, I know a group of women who helps other women. This was a lie. I did not know this, but that's what I told her. And I got her $200 out of the bank and said, this was from this group of women. Well, she couldn't have the abortion, but then we went in again in 2 weeks, and she had the abortion. And I got to take care of her 2-year-old again. That was fun. And then after that, because, I realized then that if you didn't have money, you didn't really have a choice. That's when we started the group Women Have Options, that turned my lie into an actual fact that we had a group of women who helped women, and that was the starting of Women Have Options.
Can you tell me a little more about Women Have Options?
We started out in Licking County, Ohio. The first year we just helped 5 women. And we had a telephone line that there were about 8 or 10 of us, and one person would pick up the telephone line for a week. And we would talk, women could call, and then we would talk with them. Often we would meet with them if that was convenient to find out really what their resources were, what they needed. And then we would negotiate with clinics. The first clinics that we called, they thought we were some kind of a scam, but then they got to know us and realized that we were really there to help women. And we went on that way for several years of talking to women individually and negotiating with clinics. And when that became too hard because there were more and more women, we also wanted to expand. We were just Licking County at first, and then we wanted to expand to bigger areas in Ohio. So we then changed our system to where the clinic would do the intake, and we would just simply support the clinic. And that's what we do now. We send the clinics a check 4 times a year, and they give us back information about the women that they helped. And instead of us doing the intake and talking to a woman about, what her resources are, what her needs are, the clinic does that, and then we support the clinics. So now we're helping hundreds of women every year, just in Ohio. I wish we were a bigger group. We started in 1992, and we're still going strong.
Why do you want to share your story?
The important thing from my story is I think that abortion is still out of reach of women who don't have resources and don't have support. If they don't have, rich women have always been able to have an abortion, but women who don't have financial resources and are pretty isolated, they don't have a supportive family, or they don't have supportive friends, they don't have a choice. So I didn't have the resources myself, but my family had the resources and the ability to find out, how to know where to go.
As always, for more information about the Abortion Diary podcast, visit us on the web at theabortiondiary.com or email me with your questions or comments. If you would like to share your story, send me an email at melissa@theabortiondiary.com or visit our website, click on Share Your Abortion Story, and fill out our contact form. If you're a fan of the podcast and would like to help us reach more folks, please subscribe on iTunes and write a review or rate this podcast. Your reviews and ratings will help us grow in the iTunes rankings and reach more people. I would also love to hear from you. You can also follow The Abortion Diary on Twitter or Facebook. And The Abortion Diary can't continue without your support. Support The Abortion Diary by making a tax-deductible donation to us on Fractured Atlas, or buying some of our wristbands or totes on Store Envy. And a special thanks to you for listening. I'll be back next week with a new story.